D. Mace Fingan and Donick 1025, 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And we are presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Willie Donick, Adam Vingan, David Janes, newly minted Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Derek Mason. We're all together again. We missed you last week, Derek.
Hey, I missed you guys. It's kind of Jake was great. Connor was great. But I missed you guys. It's nothing like DVD.
We missed you too.
It's kind of okay. I see how you felt like the week you were off.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of get how you felt because I was listening to you. I'm like, man, I want to send something, but should I send something? And I chose not to send something. But it was like, man, gosh, I would have probably said this right here and said that. And then Willie would have said this and Adam would have said that. So I was just kind of going through the show in my head. So, yeah, so I missed you guys.
This thing is on, right? Tap, 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 tap. This thing is on.
Check. Yeah, it looks like it sounds like it's on.
So from what I understand, there was an accident right outside of our station. I think it might have happened over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But this electrical pole was destroyed or knocked over or something, which knocked off the power to our station for a little while. Hence, Robbie and Rex Road, Joe and Jake Lyman today were knocked off the air, but we thank our engineers. We thank Nashville Electric Service for getting us back on the air swiftly.
NES. Woo, woo, woo.
And the timing could not be better. The Tennessee Titans report to training camp. Rookies and veterans report tomorrow, but there is one player who will not be reporting to training camp, and that is Will Levis. It was reported by multiple outlets this morning that Will Levis will be undergoing season-ending surgery on the right shoulder he injured early last season. This is from Adam Schefter, quote, Titans quarterback Will Levis will be undergoing season-ending surgery on the right shoulder injury he sustained early last year before further aggravating it later in the season. Levis has been unable to shake the discomfort, and his shoulder still is bothering him. Levis is, in the words of a source, quote, dedicated to return to be able to compete at the highest level possible, end quote. With Will Levis out for the year, number 1 overall pick Cam Ward is now poised to become the Titans starting quarterback, despite the fact that the team has not named him its starter. The Titans' other backup quarterbacks are veterans Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle. Ward now shapes up as the week 1 starter at Denver. Statement from the Titans today. Quote, after consulting with doctors and his representatives, Will Levis has decided to undergo shoulder surgery that will sideline him for the entire 2025 season. We support his decision to focus on his long-term health. He approached the offseason with professionalism and showed clear growth as a leader. We remain confident in his full recovery. So, something to note. It was Will Levis's decision. After consulting with doctors and his representatives, Will Levis has decided to undergo shoulder surgery. Now, gentlemen, when I texted this to you this morning, Willie, you responded first. You said, brilliant move by Levis. Explain.
I think this is probably the best thing for the Levis camp and for the Titans camp because I think it relieves a lot of weight off of what to do with him right now. We've spent a lot of the offseason talking about what to do with him. On draft day, or can they make a deal to trade and find somebody that will trade them something for Will Levis, who his stock is at an all-time low right now? They couldn't find any takers. I think we were poised for a training camp question of, is Will Levis going to become attractive to somebody who has a quarterback injury situation, which happens every year? Somebody's going to have it. Somebody will need a quarterback, just like the Packers last year, and Malik Willis ended up being a great trade for them for a backup. We are in the process of recalibrating what Will Levis is going to be in his career. Will Levis is recalibrating. His agents, his inner circle is trying to help him recalibrate that. He's going from failed starter, lampooned all around the league, to what is he? What do you do with him? They drafted Cam Ward. So this is like a redshirt year. Now, I'm sure we'll get into what is the deal with the shoulder, because the shoulder deal has been hard to figure out. It's not like a pitching injury where a pitcher, you understand, a pitcher's arm has to be healthy to play. shoulder injuries happen with quarterbacks, and it's hard to tell how it's affecting their throws, how it's affecting pain, how it's affecting their effectiveness, all of that stuff. But I think what this does is it has everybody staying back. They have a year where they can pay him. They don't use a roster spot. He's cheap. And you can recalibrate what he's going to be. And he can come back and sell himself as, hey, I got a brand new shoulder. I've had a year to sit back and learn. And now I can be of value to somebody somewhere, whether it's the Titans or somewhere else. I think it's a good move for both sides, but particularly at this stage of Levis's career.
This is an out for Levis, a clear out for Levis. This is all about next year and him going into the next season fully healthy. He figured, he has the surgery now, give it about 6 to 8 months, somewhere around there, where he can get back to possibly throwing the football, depending on how severe or how intrusive the surgery will be. So he's banking everything on the start of free agency. I'm sure he is, because under no circumstance, I believe, Will Levis will be on this roster next year. He just can't. I think next year would be the last year of his deal. So now he's missed a year, coming off a bad year. He's not going to be on this team next year. So honestly, I think this is one of these injuries that if he was the starter, he would play. He would go through it. They would have had the surgery a long time ago, if indeed he was the starter, but not now, because he's not the starter. He's just making sure that he's fully 100% when he hits free agency, because he doesn't want this shoulder to come up as a red flag during the whole free agency process. But make no mistake, this is about next year, and this is about Will Levis hitting free agency via trade, or the Titans just releasing him during that time, because they're not bringing him back. He knew this job. He knew he wasn't going to win this job. And, because when you take a guy first overall, this is not yesteryear's NFL where he's going to sit minimum 2 years. He's going to sit in, unless he just blows it out the water, but he's going to sit minimum 2 years. So that gives that guy that's ahead of him, that's a veteran guy, some years to sort of put in and get himself ready, a la Alex Smith, for a bigger contract somewhere else. So he wasn't going to be the starter this year unless Cam just got injured or fell on his face. He wasn't going to be the starter. Even if that happened, I think Brandon Allen would have been the starter and not Will Levis, because this is business. It's about money. And Will Levis gets in there and he goes out and have a tremendous season. Now that puts the Titans in a situation where, yeah, they may possibly get some picks, but now people are looking at you like, but you spent the first overall pick on a quarterback when you could have got 3 or 4 picks for that guy. You just wasn't patient with the quarterback that you had. See, it keep going back and forth with these different opinions, but make no mistake, this is about next year. This was the best sort of decision for Will Levis, and I think ultimately it's going to help the Titans. Again, I think Will Levis is tough enough. He's shown it that if he's the starter, he's playing through this. He's going.
Adam, my question is, we didn't hear about the shoulder,
and that's what
during the offseason workouts. He played, right? He was throwing passes and things like that. So did he look at it and say, there's a scenario where I play through, my shoulder isn't 100%, but I can play with it? I think it's clear that that's what happened. At the end of last year, he was playing with whatever shoulder issue that cropped up, right? It was the weird injury in the Dolphins game that they won after he went out, right? And it didn't reflect well on him. But this has been out there. He's played through it. It's hard to know exactly how much it hampers him, but he's able to play. But I think he looked at it, and maybe his agent too, and said, there's a scenario, Will, where you play and you get cut and you get thrown on the street. You got a bad shoulder. You have no value. Now you step back before they're in a position to make that call. Is he on our team? Is he the backup? Is he the third string? What do we do with this guy? Or am I trying to figure out, like, he's got no trade value? Maybe the people around the league see his shoulder is not 100%. Why would I trade for a guy that's got a bum shoulder? So again, I think this is what drives the Levis camp to this decision.
But I don't think this is an injury. And if I'm wrong, I will admit that I'm wrong. If Will Levis's camp call up here and say, no, you're dead wrong, then that I would have to accept that. But this doesn't look to me like an injury that should have sidelined him for the whole season.
It's convenient.
Exactly.
It's convenient.
Absolutely.
Because he can use it to his advantage.
Absolutely.
You may be going down this road, Derek, but I do want to ask this question. Does any part of you believe that Levis quit on the Titans by electing to have surgery now?
I don't think he necessarily, I don't want to say that, because when you saw, even though he didn't play well, he competed. That's one thing Will Levis did. He competed. He didn't play well, but he never stopped competing while he was out there. It just didn't go his way. So I'm not going to say he made a business decision. That's just what he made. And the Titans would have made that business decision after the season anyway. But he just started the ball rolling very quickly. And he's going to make sure, again, he gets himself ready. He will be throwing the football by the end of the I damn near promise you or guarantee you by the end of the season, probably a little bit even before that, he will be throwing the football.
There is a note in the story written by Teron Davenport at ESPN.com. By the way, Teron Davenport will join us at 1 o'clock as he does every Monday. I just lost it. Here it is. Quote, Levis, hoping that rest and rehab would allow the shoulder to recover, experienced discomfort during minicamp, a source told ESPN, and then started seeking additional medical opinions before deciding to have surgery. So quickly, a timeline of this injury. He suffered the injury, a sprained AC joint, in week 4 on the Monday night game against the Dolphins, diving for a first down. He comes out of the game. Mason Rudolph comes in. The Titans win that game. Levis plays the following week in a loss to the Colts. And if I recall correctly, he said something after the game about his arm not feeling right, making a throw.
And he put Callahan in a tough spot because Callahan all week was like, he made the throws. Looked like he made the throws in practice.
Right.
And then he uses it because he threw an interception late in the game where he underthrew the receiver, right?
He was inactive for three consecutive games after that. He sat out of the blowout losses to the Bills and the Lions, as well as the overtime win against the Patriots, then started 6 consecutive games and then lost the job, if I recall correctly. Or did he suffer an injury? No, he lost the job. He was benched against the Bengals. Sat out the next 2 games, came in at the end of the week 18 game against Texans. Yeah. So that is the timeline of Will Levis's season last year.
So it's a sprained AC joint. On the surface, that doesn't sound, and it never did. I think we were saying this from the start. It never sounded like something that would keep a high-end quarterback out of the lineup. So it's hard to know how it's affecting every throw because we're watching. He still threw plenty of frozen ropes. Like after that, his game in Houston, where that was probably his best game in terms of big-time throws down the field. He still made a pick 6 in that game.
And
they won the game.
I recall throwing the ball throws against the Chargers as well. Yeah, my memory serves.
It never looked like, oh my gosh, he's got a bum shoulder. He can't throw the ball. Like he was still able to throw the ball down.
And that's why I say this was a business decision by Will Levis in his camp, because I would tend to believe from what I've seen, he's so much of a competitor that if he was the starter or had a legitimate shot at being the starter, he would be out there. Now, TD did say he complained about soreness during camp. So I got to retract a little bit of what I said as far as did he complain about it. So he did talk a little bit about the soreness, but he attributed it to him throwing again, which, it's just like everybody. Once you get back in the flow of things, the next day your muscles are hurting, period. So he contributed to that. Maybe once, camp was done, he got back into his workouts. He just felt it a little bit more and said, you know what? I'm not going to chance it, which is smart of him, and say, I'm going to seek another opinion. Now, one would tend to believe, like, why did you go to the Titans doctors? Did you have them look at your shoulder again? Because they were the ones that diagnosed whatever you had going the first time. So the soreness is still there. Now you then, which he is supposed to do as a player, you should go get a second and third opinion. So obviously the outside guy said, I suggest surgery. That
Right.
would be good for you. And I guarantee the timeline is, yeah, you'll be out 3-4 months. You'll be ready to throw by. I'm sure they said he will be ready to throw by free agency. And he said, okay, let's do it.
615-737-1025. Your reaction to the news that Will Levis will be out for the entire season, undergoing season-ending surgery on his right shoulder. 615-737-1025. We will take your reaction to that all show long. Speaking of Titans training camp, our coverage of Titans training camp, which gets started this Wednesday, is sponsored by Mazzaro and 12 South and Parman Energy Group. Tune in for player interviews and the latest updates on the Titans as the team preps for the 2025 season. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you, reacting to the news that Will Levis is out for the season. He will undergo surgery on the right shoulder injury he suffered early last year. Let's get to your reaction on our phone and text lines at 615-737-1025. Jared from Spring Hill says, so why now? Seems like he has waited until the very end, bowing out to clear the way for a gifted starting spot for Ward. I bet Levis was slinging it, putting pressure on Ward in the front office. Dave from Hendersonville says, wait a minute, lots of quarterbacks have undergone major surgery on their shoulders and returned within 12 weeks. What kind of injury does Levis have that he's going to be out for an entire season, especially considering we're still 6 weeks away from the beginning of the real season? That is a ton of time to miss. This is obviously a strategic maneuver. DK and Mount Juliet, Levis outsmarted the Titans, which isn't hard to do.
The second one that you pointed out, I suspect is the question. And I want to see what Mike Borgonzi says about it in his opening press conference, because you would at least ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a chance he could come back? Let's say somehow the team needs a quarterback because let's say Ward is hurt. Let's say Brandon Allen is just awful, something like that. Teams get into situations in the last 4 games. You just need a body. You need somebody to play, and you'd rather have Levis playing than some guy off the street who has never played, something like that. Even if your goal is just to trade Will Levis to somebody, build up his value so you can get an asset for him. So why is it season ending? These are questions. So the word strategic does have me wondering, because when you say he's out for the season, it tables the whole Will Levis thing. You don't have to worry about it. You used the term last week, distraction, right? And you would hope if Cam Ward's any good, then any distraction Will Levis would be causing just because he's out there wouldn't affect Ward if he's the real deal. But there is a scenario where Ward struggles and people are like, man, maybe he's just not ready. We got to put somebody else in there. Do we put Levis in or do we put Allen in? That would be a thing. Right now, you just put that on the shelf and it is non-discussable. He's out for the season.
Well, if you were worried about Cam Ward, you would have put him on a PUP list and then sort of evaluated it as you went on, because he's having a surgery before the season starts, before camp starts. So physically unable to perform list. You put him on that or whatever other list where you can potentially bring him back into the fold if you need to. This right here is telling you he's not in the fold, period. We didn't have him in the fold. Great that now he chose to have surgery, because again, we have to think about this a little bit deeper. If there was any way that Will Levis thought he had an opportunity to win this job, and his camp thought he had an opportunity to win this job coming out of minicamp, I think either they would have probably pushed this surgery off for a little while, or he probably could have had the surgery but been on PUP. There was enough. I'm sure there was a feeling with Will Levis that my time is up here. I need to get 100% healthy. And when camp was over, he talked with his representatives. The shoulder was still bothering him a little bit. So his representative said, hey, let's go out and get another opinion from another doctor, just to make sure. They went out and did it. And that doctor probably said, yeah, I mean, you can probably rest and let it heal some more. There's the potential of that. Or we could just do surgery, not too intrusive, and it's going to put you out, maybe 2 to 3 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. Okay, let's do it. Titans got wind of it. They called the Titans. This is what Will Levis is doing. Titans said, nope, he's on IR. We ain't got to deal with it no more. Not because they're upset or anything, because it's like, thank goodness. Now we don't have to, like you said, and you said, the distraction. We don't have to deal with the distraction.
As Willie said, I said last week that Will Levis could provide a potential distraction, not because I was concerned that Will Levis would say something or do something that would cause a distraction. His mere presence would have been a distraction. Later in the show, we are going to predict the silliest storylines and controversies that we think will arise during training camp. And this was an easy one. Cam Ward struggles against the Buccaneers starters in 11-on-11s during joint practices. Will Levis has success against Buccaneers backups in those same drills. Cam Ward's not ready. Shouldn't be starting week 1. We don't have to worry about that anymore. But here's one thing that I do want to bring up. And I understand that no two situations are exactly the same. So according to Paul Kaharski, Will Levis suffered a grade 2 AC sprain in September against the Miami Dolphins, a grade 2 sprain. Anthony Richardson suffered a grade 3 AC joint sprain against the Tennessee Titans in his rookie year that forced him to have season-ending shoulder surgery. So a more severe AC joint sprain. This is a story from last week by Stephen Holder of ESPN.com about Anthony Richardson. Richardson is believed to have recovered from his recent right shoulder setback as the team prepares to report for training camp. Richardson, who underwent season-ending surgery to repair an AC joint sprain in his throwing shoulder during the 2023 season, missed the final 2 weeks of the team's offseason practices in June after experiencing soreness in that shoulder. The team's medical staff believed at the time that rest would alleviate the problem, and that appears to have been proven true. Richardson also sought outside opinions from experts who concurred with that plan. Richardson has been in Florida for weeks working with his personal coaches, throwing the ball with velocity, according to the source. So Anthony Richardson suffered the same injury, a more severe version of that injury, against the Titans in 2023, had season-ending surgery, and was experiencing soreness in that same shoulder last month.
That shows you that in today's world, even though medical technology is advanced, that a shoulder still can be acting up even after the surgery. It's not the surgery doesn't end your problems forever. You hope it helps more than the alternative, which is just to rest, strengthen, etc. So it seems to me like it's everybody has got to decide, each quarterback, because it's loose, right? That's the problem. When you're throwing the ball, it's not as stable, your shoulder. Some guys can play through it. Some guys, you have to get a feel every week what you can do. And you do all of the exercises, I'm sure, just like a pitcher would, to stabilize those muscles as much as you can. But I would imagine it affects everybody differently. The Richardson thing seems like it was a lot more severe because it was the next day or within a couple of days.
They made
he's
the
out for the
decision
season.
quick.
Yeah, he's having surgery.
So I wonder if, because this has been the thing with Will Levis, I mean, in the Titans, it wasn't, I don't think there was much talk of surgery, prior to any of this. Even when he experienced the soreness during the season, he got hurt during the season, I don't think there was big talk about surgery. It was rest, get rest. Now, maybe looking back on it, in hindsight is 2020. Maybe they should have had surgery back then, like Richardson did.
That question
got
should
it over
come up,
with. Exactly, got it over with. Strengthened the shoulder, and then threw him. Put him back on the field.
Now, I'm not a doctor. I will play one on the radio. Here is information on a grade 2 AC joint sprain, according to Mass General. A grade 2 AC joint sprain usually results from a partial tear of the ligaments or even a full tear of the acromyoclavicular ligament.
Absolutely.
And partial tear of another type of ligament. Yes. So that's a grade 2 AC joint sprain usually results from a partial tear of the ligaments. A grade 3 is a complete AC joint tear or rupture.
So it sounds like a big difference between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Yes. So
but
it's been reported that Levis suffered a grade 2
yeah.
sprain versus Anthony Richardson, who I brought up earlier, who had a grade 3.
Yeah,
but
so
both
this is a good what if, is if you could do it over again.
Would you have the
Would
surgery?
he have been better off, even if not having surgery, shutting it down for
Completely.
6 weeks to strengthen it back up before trying to play through it the way he did? Did he make it worse after? And let's think about this what if. What if he had the surgery right after he lost, had coming out against the Dolphins? What would they have done? what would his stock be compared to what it is now? His stock, if anything, went down by playing through it.
Yeah.
He didn't get any points for, hey, man, he toughed it out. He's got a bad shoulder, man. He's trying to play through it. He's tough.
No, you get docked for that, man. If you don't play well, you get docked for it. If you play great, then it's yes.
Well,
he's
this
tough.
This is what I'm saying. Like, by going on IR, his stock cannot drop. His stock cannot drop. If anything, it might come up a little bit just because he's gone away. And you're like, okay, he's a year older, he's a year wiser, and he's healthy.
But they should have did that during the season. Now basically everybody, a lot of people have their mind made up about Will Levis. And that's the unfortunate part about it.
But there's something about when you're a backup and you're the unknown and your stock, you can't make a mistake.
But he is the known. He's the known that
but
went
he's like, but that was
unknown.
the Will Levis from 2 years ago.
No, it's still the same Will Levis.
But you're only evaluating him as a backup now.
Yes,
you're not saying, and you've talked about when you're comparing him to other backups, that's very different than saying he should be a starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think I think Will Levis, especially now, once he fully recovers from his surgery, I think Will Levis will play a lot of years in this league. But unfortunately for him, I'm not sure if he's going to if he doesn't show vast improvement, I'm not sure he's going to get a chance to be a starter in this league, on a consistent basis.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction to the news that Will Levis out for all of this coming season. By the way, one texter says, this is a non-issue. Levis wasn't going to start or be the backup. Levis is trying to save face and prep for 2026. Did y'all not watch the first 3 games before he got hurt? We all did watch those games. We did indeed watch those games. Again, I'm not going to watch them again. As I said last week, I'm not a masochist. 615-737-1025. I also do want to answer a question that some of you may have about what the Titans do at quarterback now that Will Levis is out. 615-737-1025. Before we get there, 1025 The Game and Souls for Souls have teamed up for a back-to-school fundraiser, Souls for the 615, to provide new shoes for kids experiencing homelessness in Nashville. Help a child in Middle Tennessee step into the new school year with confidence by donating $20 for a new pair of athletic shoes. For more information and to donate, visit thegamenashville.com/shoes. Souls for the 615 is sponsored by Macero and 12 South. Go check them out for handcrafted cocktails, bold plates, great happy hour, and elevated hospitality. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Let's go to our phone line driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com. Our friend Adam from Portland is on the line. Adam, thank you for calling. Go ahead.
Dude, it's such a weird way for it to end with Levis, though, right? Like, I mean, nobody thought he was going to help us on the field, but he could have helped us by going somewhere and giving us something. Like, he could have given us something back, some type of a draft pick. So, I don't know. I thought the Jaguars, I thought the Saints, somebody would have come calling. But for it to end like this, dude, that's like locker level disappointment. Like, I don't know. We didn't give up a first. Like, we didn't spend a first on him.
Right.
But it's
But
still
you traded
like
up to get him in the second.
You traded up. And then also, like, we had Munchak at the time, right? Or, like, it was between Fish and Munchak. We didn't have a guy who's supposed to be really good at speaking to quarterbacks. So, I don't know. The whole thing is just gross to me, man. I wish it would have ended better.
Okay.
Well.
Do we think that privately the Titans are saying this is it? Well, but because if they didn't, they could cut him, right? But they're agreeing to rehab him, to have him do the surgery and rehab under their dime. They're paying him, even though he's not picking up a roster time. So to me, I don't think that they are saying this is it. I think they're still holding out some hope, whether realistic or not, that they can turn him into some asset, that they can get something back.
Will Levis is not in their future. They couldn't stop the surgery.
But I'm saying, could they trade him? Do they still hope to trade him to somebody who will take?
I don't even think it's one of those things. I think now is, okay, if you offer us something, okay, what is it? All right. But outside of that, he's not in their plans moving forward. They couldn't stop the surgery. They still got to pay him because he got hurt while playing. So,
but you could do like an injury settlement, right? Isn't that something in the CBA? Is that still a thing?
Usually they can give an injury.
Oh, you want to have surgery? Okay, we're going to cut you, but we will give you an injury settlement.
But then that's bad business. I don't think they can just do that. I think they got to give you an opportunity to rehab, and then because when they did the out physical, none of this. That was their opportunity. When they did the out physical and it seemed like everything was okay, they still know he had the grade 2, or maybe it wasn't as severe, because he had time to rest. But he just found out, he just decided, like, look, I'm going to have this surgery and I'm going to shelve it for the year. So when free agency starts, I'm not in their plans. It was a blessing for the Titans because we just pay him for this year. We cut him at the end of the year or potentially trade him, which if they trade him, it's probably better. But if they cut him, then there may be there's not even an injury settlement with that, because what they would do before they cut him is they would give him another physical. And if he passes the physical, then okay, I can cut you now. And I don't have to give a injury settlement to you. So he's not in the Titans' plans moving forward, but they couldn't stop the surgery.
I do want to address a question that I think some of you probably have, and that's whether the Titans, I should say, should pursue a better backup quarterback. So now that Will Levis is out for the season, behind Cam Ward, you have Brandon Allen, who has started a grand total of 10 games over 5 seasons. You have Tim Boyle, who has started a grand total of 5 games in 6 seasons. So 15 combined starts in their careers for Brandon Allen and Tim Boyle. Now, perhaps the Titans realize, hey, if Cam Ward isn't ready, do we really want to win a lot of games this season? Probably not. So sticking Brandon Allen out there, sticking Tim Boyle out there probably doesn't make a huge difference. But there were 2 scenarios I was considering. One free agent scenario and one team to watch. The free agent scenario, and by the way, the choices on the free agent market.
Your question is why I think the Titans could still get an asset for Levis, or even toy with the idea of him competing for the backup. Backup quarterbacks are always hard to find. And this is a great exercise for that. The bar is so much lower. As bad as Levis was, he's young, and he might be better than some backups out there.
Here are the 2 free agents.
Malik Willis just got it. Malik Willis, think about what his stock was, and then he did what he did.
The 2 free agents, the 2 best available quarterbacks on the market right now. Carson Wentz, number 1.
Okay.
The pride of Battleground Academy, CJ Beathard, number 2. The team that I'm curious about is the Cleveland Browns. because we know they have way too many quarterbacks. They have Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. They have Dylan Gabriel. And, of course, they have Shedeur Sanders. I don't know what's going to happen in Cleveland with the quarterback battle, but if one of those veterans loses the quarterback battle, Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett, whichever one loses, could that player shake loose?
There's a possibility depending on, because they're not going to carry Joe Flacco and I think Kenny Pickett unless Kenny Pickett just competes to a level where he is the backup or potentially can be the starter. But I think it's one or the other, and it'll shake out in camp. But I'm not sure if the Titans are going to do anything. I think they're going to bring in another arm just because, you can now that you put Will Levis on IR, you could bring in another arm, but that arm is just to take reps. I think in their mind, at least Brian Callahan's, I'm good with Brandon Allen and Boyle's there too, but I'm good with Brandon Allen because I don't expect him to be the starter. I think he's good enough to be a backup and run the system. This is a system he's familiar with, so he can run it. I'm not looking for him to be my starter, but I am okay with him being the backup as we sit right now. Now, if he goes through camp and it shakes out something different, he doesn't perform well, then I think that's when, as the Titans front office, you look to make a move. But if you're going to bring a quarterback in, one, right now it's going to be just another arm. And then two, it depends on how Boyle do. And then you're going to see how things shake out with other teams and see what other veteran backup quarterbacks are on the market then.
Two different texts on our text line, Willie. Wes in Clarksville. They should have already found a better backup by now. How many years in a row have we had to depend on a backup? Skyler. This is a bad football team. Nobody should care who the backup is. If Ward goes down, Titans could very possibly get the number 1 pick in the draft again. And I understand that point.
That is something to think about.
Yeah.
They kind of need to pick high again.
It could be counterintuitive to the Titans' ultimate goal of getting some younger talent in here by signing a backup quarterback who could help you win games if Cam Ward gets hurt or isn't ready.
Because now that they have made their choice for quarterback, they should be even more maybe looking to find ways to get the premier picks that they know they need to build the roster.
The only way they're doing that is through trade, because if they do that, Brian Callahan's not going to be here next year.
Yeah, right. That's the dilemma for the coaching staff, is because if you don't win enough, this is why this goes to Mike Vrabel's. You cannot rebuild in this league. If you rebuild in this league, you get fired. You don't get to see the other side of the rebuild. And I see that, especially from the coach's standpoint. But if you're Mike Borgonzi, I think you have to have a different viewpoint, because he just got there. He can afford to take a little bit of time, especially if he defines that he is rebuilding. And they aren't in denial like they were for a while, going through the Athletic article that we cited last week about the first stage of a rebuild is denial.
Yes.
You have to admit that you're in it first, and the Titans definitely hit that description. They were in denial for a while.
Craig on our text line says, the Titans are lucky they are no longer at risk of seeing another dismissed quarterback come back and paste an L on their record this year, much like Malik Willis did with the Green Bay Packers last season.
I think realistically, even if Cam Ward is ready to go in week 1, it is, the probability that he starts all 17 games and doesn't get hurt is low. Would you agree?
Yes.
At least even if it's just for a couple of games. It's unlikely. It's hard to stay healthy for 17 games as a rookie quarterback, especially if you struggle some, and this team looks like it's going to struggle. So now that they've committed to Cam Ward, I do think that has you wondering, how do you get the picks to build the roster as fast as possible? Because they turned down the chance to do it the other way and have the exploratory year where they could have gotten, more of a stopgap quarterback and then built the roster with the extra picks they would have gotten from the Giants, which I still stand by would have been the better way to build the roster. But it's all on Cam Ward now. And now you got to figure out how to get the other pieces, and they lack the pieces. They have so little.
I do want to highlight this tweet from London Titan, at London Titan. So Justin Mello tweeted, the Titans clearly didn't agree with Will Levis's decision. He pursued outside opinions and opted for surgery. He knows his next opportunity will make or break his career. He would rather go into that opportunity as healthy as possible. London Titan, at London Titan, quote tweeted that and said, "It's so unlike Will Levis to wait and wait and wait and then make a surprising decision that his Titans coaches clearly didn't like."
This was a business decision for Will Levis. It's, and you brought it up, earlier, Willie. It's what people saw last wasn't good. And for him, he want to make sure that, once he hits, because again, this is my opinion. I don't think he's on this roster next season. I think he understands that. So he wants to go out. He wants to have this surgery, and he want to make sure there's, if people wonder about, well, why wasn't he doing well last season? Maybe he can point to the shoulder, maybe not. But then he can say, like you said, Willie, it's healed now. I'm good. I'm ready to throw. So it leads me to, he will be ready to throw the football before either he gets traded or free agency starts. He will be ready to throw the football.
He's like a pitcher, or maybe even a hockey player. This is why I think, remember, he's playing the position that is so hard. It may be the hardest to find in sports, is a viable quarterback. And so when you have physical talent like he does, you will have, I think, somebody that sees him throw and say, and look at his gifts and say, hey, this is better than the alternative. Just because every year we look around at an NFL game at some point in the season going, how in the world is this guy having to play quarterback for this team? There's some bad quarterbacks. You used to say that all the time when people would drill Will Levis. And remember, we're holding it to a standard of a backup now. We're not saying he's going to bounce back and be a starter. But I think if the goal for him is to stay in the league as a backup, by going away and then having sort of his attributes sit there, and maybe you're further removed from
the bad
stuff that he did when he was being held to the standard of a starter, there might be that fit, whether it's with the Titans or somebody else. Especially if Ward is established. Ward has a good year, let's say a Drake May kind of year, where he, at the end of the year, you're like, okay, didn't light the world on fire, but we like what we've got here. And now Will Levis is no longer in a, wait, what if he's better than Ward, right? Maybe next year he's a cheap backup for the Titans.
615-737-1025.
Maybe, especially if we see Brandon Allen play. Right? Like Brandon Allen, the idea, hey, veteran quarterback, he knows, that's fine until you see him play. And then you're like, wait a minute.
Hence why he has
what are we doing here?
10 games in his career.
His allure is he's been in the league a long time. He never has to play.
Yeah.
It's good living if you can get it.
Exactly.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your thoughts on Will Levis. I also want to get to this new report about 2 expected Titan starters and their availability at the start of training camp. We will get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. 102.5, 106.3 The Game. D. Mace Finken and Donick, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. And we are presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. We spent the first hour discussing Will Levis and his injury. He will undergo season-ending surgery on his right shoulder. In the grand scheme of things, Will Levis being out for the season, not a huge deal. A new report from Easton Freeze at A to Z Sports. Again, not really a surprise here either. The Titans are expected to be without L'Jarius Sneed and Lloyd Cushenberry to begin training camp with injury designations. L'Jarius Sneed, according to Freeze, is expected to be in camp on the physically unable to perform list, aka the PUP list, per team sources. Here was an interesting point in the story from Easton Freeze. Multiple team sources emphasized to Freeze that despite beginning camp on PUP, Sneed is on track to return to play in time for the season, and that so far things look good on that timeline. So while the timeline to practice is unclear, the timeline to play is still on schedule. We'll have to see if that suffers any additional setbacks. Also, Lloyd Cushenberry will begin training camp on the physically unable to perform list. He suffered an Achilles injury last season. So according to Easton Freeze of A to Z Sports, the Titans will be without L'Jarius Sneed and Lloyd Cushenberry to begin training camp. Both will be on the physically unable to perform list. Again, not a surprise, but I thought that distinction, Derek, in that graph from Freeze was interesting. That Sneed is on track to return to play in time for the season. It's about the timeline to practice.
That doesn't make sense. And I know, and I'm not saying that Austin, he's just writing what they told him. This is what the information they gave me, so I'm writing it. That doesn't make sense. You're on pace, or you're on schedule to play first game of the season, but they don't know about the practice. Don't you got to practice first before you play, especially after you're coming off an injury?
When has he ever practiced anyway?
And this is what they were trying to change, him practicing more. And this is the mixed messages that they send. It's ridiculous. He's on track to play the first, but we don't know about the practice. Well, I mean, I can see if you said he's on schedule to practice the way we want it, but the plane is determined by how well he can practice, or how productive he is in practice. We will take it from there. But to say he's on schedule to play first game of the season, but not,
I think you're being hopeful when you say that, and I'm not sure that they can really say that.
But that's a mixed message.
You're going to hear that question, I think, asked is, how confident are you that he will be ready? Because he never practiced anyway. We're talking just about Sneed. Cushenberry is a big one as well.
Yeah.
So the PUP, there's always a guy or two on the PUP to start.
Yes.
And sometimes it's say they need an extra week or so, maybe a couple weeks. Landry went through this coming off the ACL. It buys you some time, because you don't have to answer the question every day of, when are we going to see so-and-so at practice? Yeah, he's on PUP. That's all you have to say as the coach. He's on PUP, can't practice. But so people are going to wonder, what kind of progress are we making?
But why would you say he's on PUP, but then say he's scheduled to play when the season starts, like first game of the season? Like, how do you know if he's going to be ready to play?
You hope that he gets a couple of weeks of practice in with the team before, ideally, that before they play a game. I still will be a little bit in, I'll believe they're going to be in the opening day lineup with a chance to be good, both Cushenberry and Sneed, when I see it.
So L'Jarius Sneed,
with the injuries that are coming off,
did an interview a couple of weeks ago from his football camp, I think in Shreveport, Louisiana. And he said, quote, "I'm as healthy as I've ever been." Now, Easton Freeze writes in A to Z Sports, turns out, quote unquote, healthy as I've ever been, apparently doesn't mean quite healthy enough to return to practice. I'm not sure what L'Jarius meant by this. Perhaps he was merely saying he was in the best place with his rehab he'd been in yet, and that things were progressing. That's the silver lining here, because things are apparently really progressing. Then that leads into what I read. Again, multiple team sources emphasized to Freeze that despite beginning camp on PUP, Sneed is on track to return to play in time for the season, and that so far things look good on that timeline. So while the timeline to practice is unclear, the timeline to play is still on schedule.
Okay. Again, I'm all about wording. When you say I'm as healthy as I've ever been,
But picture
and I'm
Snead
ready
saying it. We know
to go.
Snead. What we learned about Snead is he's a man of few words.
But that makes it even more like I'm as healthy as I ever been. Okay, you should be you shouldn't be on the pup list.
That's like the text that you get
Exactly.
from somebody, and you're going, well, what does he or she mean
It's all
by this text? It could mean a lot of different things.
It's wording, and then he will say, well, y'all took that. Well, no, you got to have better wording. You could say, since my injury, since I was, sidelined, I haven't felt this good since before that, which means I am on pace. Not to say that I'm ready, but I'm on pace. But when you say I feel the best I've ever felt, you feel better than you did as a rookie, as a second-year player, as a third-year player?
Now,
I'm
Derek,
all about wording here.
Derek, you were an outstanding NFL professional football player for
15
years. How many times later in your career did you say, I'm in the best shape of my life?
I just told him I never say I'm in the best shape.
Okay.
Because I knew I was in the best shape of my life. I don't think anybody came in and questioned whether I was going to be in shape or not. Or I never went into have a season-ending surgery. So when coming back into camp.
But isn't that one of the biggest cliches that you hear in professional sports at the beginning of a season? Doesn't matter the sport. It could be football. It could be hockey. It could be basketball. I'm in the best shape of my life.
Right. But this is the distinction. You were never labeled as a guy that you were always healthy.
Exactly.
So
I don't mean to be picking on Derek.
No, I know that.
He's the only one in here who actually played football.
Snead has a very unique set of circumstances because he already had the questions of not practicing. He was already sort of, hey, there's a yellow flag up when they trade for him. They're like, what do the Chiefs know about this guy? They're paying him a lot of money. There's a little bit of a roll of the dice here. And then the injury happens last year. So he knows there's a whole lot behind that question. So when he says that, I just picture Snead.
Now,
you know how he answers questions. He answers in one sentence, two tops, and stop, and then that's it.
But
he says as little as possible.
I'm not trying to sit here and say that, L'Jarius Snead is
it wasn't a smart
misleading us or anything else.
He wasn't a thoughtful answer.
It wasn't a collaborative answer.
No.
From him and the Titans.
Where was he? He was at his camp?
Yeah. When he says, I am in the best shape or I'm as healthy as I've ever been, but then the Titans say, we're putting him on PUP and we don't really know when he's going to be able to fully practice, but he will be ready for the season. Those are mixed messages.
He wasn't ready for that. He wasn't thought through. He didn't consult the Titans for sure.
I'm not blaming L'Jarius Snead. I'm just saying the communications here, it's not, y'all still on dial-up. The communication is on dial-up, and the Titans have been on dial-up with communications for a minute now, whether it be Burke's surgery last season where he just flippantly threw it out there, or other situations where the message that the player is getting isn't the message that the head coach of the organization is saying. Will Levis, prime example.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was good. Well, my shoulder was hurting a little bit. Yeah. Dial up communication right there. You need to get on the Wi-Fi, both of them. This organization and their players need to get on high speed. Go get Starlink or something, because right now you're on dial up AOL.
We need to play the sound effect.
Do you think Mike Borgonzi picks up the phones to call Chad Brinker? Ryan, get off the internet. I'm trying to make a call.
That's the way it sounds.
Perhaps. David is looking for that clip from L'Jarius Snead because I know we've played it in the past. If I recall the news item correctly, the news item from the local Louisiana affiliate that ran the story, you don't hear the question to L'Jarius Snead. The anchor talks about Snead, then it cuts to the clip. So I would be curious to hear what the question was to L'Jarius Snead. It was probably as simple as, how are you feeling because you missed most of last season? I'm as healthy as I've ever been.
That means you should be able to go first day of camp. If I'm coming in and I'm telling somebody after an injury, man, I'm as healthy as I've ever been. Oh, I plan on participating from day one. I'm not on a PUP list because I don't need to be on a PUP list.
Here's a quote from Brian Callahan from the spring about L'Jarius Sneed. Quote, the rehab process is ongoing. He's in a good spot. Excited about where he's at, but there's definitely a part where we'd like him to practice more. I think he's on the same page too. You've got to balance those things. There's a management part for a lot of players, but there's also you've got to practice and get better at your craft. You need to improve. We'll balance that.
So if he ain't practicing, how do you expect him to play the first game of the season? That's my thing.
Well, it's July.
Yeah.
And so we shouldn't freak out. The question is, how long would they keep him on the PUP? Is there a scenario? This is where we have to, try to get as much information as we can in the dial-up, the Wi-Fi, the high-speed Wi-Fi, the what do they call it? The fibers, the high fiber, whatever they call it.
Fiber optics.
Fiber optics is their goal. Is there a scenario where they think they could pull him off a PUP to have
early
3 weeks of practice, 4 weeks of practice? Because we got a long time between now and the actual first game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
not
do.
Until after Labor Day.
And they can get to camp and decide first day of camp, oh, he's ready to go, or after the second day, he's ready to go. I think a lot of it will be whether, if one, he has to be healthy enough to pass the test that he's going to have to run. He says he's as healthy as he's ever been, so passing the test shouldn't be an issue for him. So then after that, when are you going to throw him on the field?
David has found the clip of L'Jarius Sneed. Here is L'Jarius Sneed at his football camp. I think it was last month. We're waiting. He's got it. He's looking for it.
Oh, yeah. Has it trying to.
It's time to come out and, show the world and show what God been instilling in me this entire year. I'm ready to get back on the field, and that's my life. That's what I do for a living. And I missed the whole year. And, everybody have to remind everybody who L'Jarius Sneed is.
So that was the clip.
Okay, so it sounds a little better.
Yeah.
A little more.
But he still says I am as healthy as I've ever been. But to what you said, Willie, yeah, it's like he just thought about it as being healthy and just said, man, I'm healthy and I'm ready to go. I got to remind people who L'Jarius Sneed is.
He probably should have chose his words better because, again, what do they clip? They're going to take out the part that you honed in on, Adam.
And listen, I am not faulting L'Jarius Sneed for what he said, because if that's what he believed, then I got to go by what the player is saying. But then the organization comes and said, well, we're throwing him on PUP and he's ready to play, but he's not really ready to practice. But Brian Callahan, you just said before camp ended or it started the mini camps that he needs to practice more. Again, these messages, man, it's just.
And nobody will worry about it if he's ready to go.
Yes, exactly.
You have 7 weeks. You're 7 weeks away, basically, from playing a real game. So a lot can happen in 7 weeks.
Yeah, you're right.
Like you can heal from a broken bone in 7 weeks.
Depending on how broken that bone
right, or which bone it is. But you know what I mean? Like sometimes you break a bone, it's, you're 4 to 6 weeks or 6
I can heal break a finger, I heal.
So I think you try to use the time to your advantage, and you field all the questions early, but maybe we'll get an answer of, we would like to take him off the PUP with 3 weeks left, 4 however much time they feel like they need him to ramp up, but keeping in mind that he never practices anyway.
Yeah.
And just for housekeeping purposes, players on the PUP list can participate in all team activities except practice.
Mm-hmm.
They can be activated at any point during camp once they are medically cleared. A player can't be placed on the PUP list after they have practiced or played in a preseason game.
We're focusing on Sneed.
Yes.
Cushenberry's a big one too.
Huge.
Yeah, I think he may be the more important one.
I think we are undervaluing the importance of Lloyd Cushenberry to Cam Ward's success this season. The offensive line, all of those things. I think he is a gigantic X factor.
Well, because with the offensive line, and this is the Titans were dealing with a double problem with the offensive line the last course of the 2 years. One, the talent wasn't as good, especially at the left tackle position and a lot of times at the right tackle. But not only were they not good enough to really be starters, they were not playing enough together. So when you're not playing enough together because of injuries, guys out, guys getting rotated because they're not playing well, when you don't have no cohesiveness amongst that offensive line, it's going to make for a long day for your team, period. So having Cushenberry not there the first day of camp, which I think everybody realized that was going to happen anyway. And we talked about guys, which guy you think is most important to the Cam, and we did that some months ago. And Cushenberry name was brought up because, or the backup center, Levin. He was brought up because what they get out of Levin until Cushenberry gets fully healthy is going to be key and critical to the growth of Cam Ward.
That's why I think I wouldn't be as worried about Snead missing a lot of practices because he plays a position that I think is a little less important that you practice if there is one. I mean, you want everybody to practice, obviously, in a grand scheme. But if you could choose one, for what you're saying, the center is so important in the reps and building the connection with all of the offensive linemen. You've got changes that you've made. There's some new guys in there, guys at different positions. So the linchpin in the center and the reps with a rookie quarterback, it's more important. I'm more concerned if I could pick one that I could magically have at practice earlier, I think I would pick Cushenberry.
Because if Cushenberry, it's going to be hard. And this is where, I mean, it's sort of bad for Cushenberry in a sense, because he's opened the door for a spot to be taken. And I understand that at least in yesteryear's league, you couldn't lose your spot through injury a lot of times. And that's what it seemed like that was the unwritten rule, so to speak. That's not the case complete outside of the quarterback position. That's really not the case anymore. If you open that door for an individual to come in and he plays well, you may not get your job back. So my thing is Corey Levin to me has to play well regardless, because I think it helps with the growth of Cam Ward in that offensive line because they're all playing together. But if he plays well, Cushenberry comes back, the Titans now got to make a decision. And if I'm the Titans, and if he doesn't come back until like the 5th game of the season, Corey Levin is playing well. I am not taking Corey Levin out of the center position. I'm just not. That's bad for Lloyd Cushenberry. I get it. Unfortunate. But I am not removing Corey Levin from the center position. Why? Because as an offensive line, when you remove one of those links and try to put another one in, it doesn't work as well as it did before.
Especially the player who is handing the rookie quarterback the ball.
Exactly. Absolutely. So
615-737-1025. We will take your thoughts on L'Jarius Sneed and Lloyd Cushenberry. According to Easton Freeze of A2C Sports, both players will start training camp on the physically unable to perform list. Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi will address reporters tomorrow, I believe, at noon. A lot of these questions should be answered then. 615-737-1025. But coming up next, we're going to have a little fun. As training camp starts, we know there's going to be some silly storyline, some silly controversy that arises during training camp. We are going to attempt to predict what those silly storylines and or controversies are going to be. And you can do as well at 615-737-1025. Let me tell all of you out there, speaking of that phone number, that the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix is coming to the Nashville Superspeedway Labor Day weekend, and 1025 The Game has your chance to win VIP tickets to the IndyCar race. Text in the keyword RACE, RACE, to 615-737-1025 to be entered to win a pair of VIP tickets. For more information on the event, visit MusicCityGP.com.
happy Monday, everyone. This is Derek Mason, and you heard me tell you about Dr. Lodge and his staff over at Cool Springs MD for some time. If you set out to lose weight, chances are it's not your first time setting a resolution to shed some extra pounds, only to face disappointment. But at Cool Springs MD, Dr. Lodge and his staff understands the frustration of this cycle, and that is why they offer a different approach to weight loss. Their comprehensive weight loss program is led by Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and addresses the root cause of weight gain. With tailored nutrition, exercise, blood test supplements, and more. They will customize a program specific to you and you only. So connect with Dr. Lodge at CoolSpringsMD.com today to schedule your appointment for a personalized weight loss plan just for you. That's Cool Springs MD, where your weight loss journey becomes a success story.
This September, Tim McGraw will be performing at Trying Rock the Cradle in Nashville, a meaningful event supporting newborns and moms at Ascension St. Thomas Midtown. Get your tickets now at rockthecradlenashville.org. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Bingen. All right, it's that time of the year. Titans rookies and veterans report to training camp tomorrow. First practice is on Wednesday morning. So every year, there is a ludicrous storyline or controversy that arises during training camp. Last year's winner, in quotation marks, was Jeffrey Simmons having a verbal altercation with Buck Rising. I would say second place was, I'll call it Lake Gate. Wasn't this a thing? Will Levis, did he throw the ball into the lake? Did it bounce first before it went over the fence into the lake?
Was that in training camp or was that
It was in
the
training
summer?
camp. It was in training camp. It was in training camp.
I
The
thi-
ball
the
bounced on the ground.
Either
okay?
way, it came up in training camp.
Yeah.
for
Right.
sure.
But did the ball sail over the fence directly into the lake? Did it bounce first, then went over the fence into the lake? That kind of silly stuff. So here's what I want to do. I want us all to attempt to predict the silliest storyline or controversy that will come up during Titans training camp. The alternate title for this segment was, what will Jared spend way too much time yelling about over the next month?
Which I think is probably the more accurate way
True.
to look at it.
I would like to submit my silliest storyline or controversy, because I do think that this player might be the player most ripe, I guess you could say, for one of these silly controversies. Xavier Restrepo will have a couple of impressive practices, and however you choose to define impressive, followed by a standout performance in the Titans' preseason opener against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, leading some people to believe that Restrepo is the second best receiver on the roster behind Calvin Ridley.
We can only hope that is a storyline as opposed to some other storylines.
But that is my submission for the silliest storyline or controversy that will arise during training camp, because there are a lot of question marks on the Titans wide receiver depth chart behind Calvin Ridley.
It's the land of opportunity.
As you say,
that is going to be my theme of the wide receiver group.
So can't you imagine Restrepo having some good practices? Then he'll have 5 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown against the Buccaneers. Xavier Restrepo, wide receiver 2. Like, can't you imagine that happening?
Yeah. Oh man, that would be far. That would be far.
I did say silly. I said silly.
That ain't even silly. That's just downright just like, okay. I see with Jared, you just never know.
But this isn't just about Jared, of course.
Just anybody. You just never know what situation they will make a big one, a silly one. I think the silly one is going to be, for me, I think it's going to be JC Latham. And they should have traded out of the pick and got him later on, because look at him. He was a right tackle. They tried to use him at left tackle, and it botched. And they should have drafted him a little bit later. He wasn't a top. What was he? 7th, 8th, 7th. He wasn't a top 7 pick. You can get a right tackle a little bit later than that, because ultimately that's what he ended up going to play. He's going to end up playing his natural position, which is right tackle. So again, why do you draft a right tackle in the first 7 picks?
I do want to submit one that is Latham related from Ian Safar, because I asked him for his opinion on this before the show. He said there's going to be a silly controversy about JC Latham's weight and T'Vondre Sweat's weight. T'Vondre Sweat hasn't lost enough weight. JC Latham lost too much weight to play right tackle.
We're hitting on the theme that absolutely, if we could look back camp by camp, and we had some fun with this with some of the players that become stories in camp as if they're going to be, in Canton someday. They don't even make the team, right? But they're talked about. The ratio of how much time they're talked about in a camp is high. And with that in mind, I'm going to continue to go off the wide receivers, because nobody gets talked about more than wide receivers. Because when you go to practice at training camp, what do you see a lot? A lot of balls thrown and a lot of passes, complete or incomplete. And there's always that guy going, man, this guy's caught a lot of passes in practice. Maybe he's going to be good. But it usually is not an indicator of when you really put the pads on, you start playing real football, what's going to happen. There's circumstances. Like, we spend a lot of time year in and year out talking about Mason Kinsey. Mason Kinsey catches everything in training camp every year. He scores touchdowns. He's flamboyant. And you're like, Mason Kinsey, he looks like a good player. And then he's always on the practice squad, plays a couple games a year. He's the same guy every year. But in practice, in training camp, he gets talked about way more than he should, just because of the nature of covering a training.
So what y'all saying is the ongoing talks will be amongst the wide receiver room.
So this is mine. Mine will be, and we'll see, because I don't even know if he's going to suit up for the first practice. But if Treylon Burks,
I thought about Treylon Burks.
If Treylon Burks is on the practice field for 2 or 3 straight weeks, he's going to make some. He might make some plays.
Oh, he's going to make some plays.
It's the land of opportunity, and we are going to entertain the question of, is Treylon Burks valuable in some way? Right? Because he tantalizes you with his talent if he could stay on the field. So if he does, remember, we're not talking about months into the season, because that's always the problem. But if he just is on the practice field for, let's say, for a couple of preseason games, and he's got some moments, that's going to be the silly discussion that we have.
Well, it's a silly discussion that we had last year when it happened.
Right.
Right. But
when he
that won't
made
stop us from having it
Oh
again.
no, not at all. Not at all. Because if he comes out and that's another one. Like, you've already told us who's on the PUP list. I'm not sure if Traylon practiced much or if at all in minicamp. He doesn't start on the PUP list, so he will get it. He's going to be out there the first day. He didn't miss any. He did practice some in minicamp. He practiced. He was out there. Now, how much did he practice? I don't know, but he was out there. And it looked as if he was still recovering from knee surgery. Looked a little heavy. But you got to expect that a guy that's rehabbing from a knee surgery. You're not in tip-top shape that you want to be in. But Brian Callahan didn't say anything about him starting on the PUP list.
It's the land of opportunity, and there is such a dearth of talent. And when you watch football practice every day, there are so many passes thrown. Somebody's going to be catching a lot of passes in these practices. It doesn't mean they're any good when the game starts, but somebody's going to become the darling, whether it's Restrepo, one of the fourth rounders, maybe it's Burks, maybe it's
going to be Bryce Oliver.
Maybe it's Bryce Oliver. That's a great one.
Bryce Oliver.
Maybe it's a guy we don't even know who is. There's always that guy who that they give you the little sheet that's got everybody's number.
Like,
there's 100 guys out there like, oh, what number? Who's number so and so? You look up like, I've never heard of this guy. Undrafted free agent. The guy looks pretty good.
There you
go. Is this who we're gonna? Do you have any other non-wide receiver ones?
I was going to ask the two of you the same thing, as well as our listeners at 615-737-1025. What is the silliest storyline or controversy non-wide receiver edition that will arise during training camp? The reason why I landed on Restrepo is just because of the groundswell of support he seemed to receive from the Titans fan base after he signed as an undrafted free agent because of his connection with Cam Ward. So that already adds something to it. And again, I can see it now. Whatever day that Buccaneers preseason game is, the next day we're on the air after Restrepo has 5 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown. We're going to get calls. Restrepo, wide receiver 2. Move over, Tyler Lockett. Move over, Chimdike. It's Xavier Restrepo.
Can you imagine if he has a preseason game where he catches a couple? There's always a guy that catches a couple touchdowns in the preseason games. It has everybody going.
Here's another one. During these joint practices, Cam Ward has a bad period. Oh, he's not ready to start yet. He's not ready to start yet.
No question.
He's not.
I do think that was one that came to mind until the news of this morning. Because I think that if Ward would have gone up against the Falcons or the Buccaneers in 11-on-11, starters versus starters, and he struggles, and Will Levis would have gone up against the backups and played well, I think Levis specifically would have created that quote unquote controversy. Not so much Brandon Allen or Tim Boyle. So I think that one comes off the board. Tom in Nashville on our text line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Free agent guard, meaning Kevin Zeitler. Free agent guard gets hurt, and Dylan Radins gets cut by the Saints. Should they bring back Dylan Radins? That's a good one, Tom.
Not if the Saints cut him. I don't want to bring him back.
That is another one. When a ex-Titans player gets cut by their new team, hey, should the Titans bring him back? I mean, this is not that. And I don't mean to pick on Jake Lyman, because I heard this morning before we were knocked off the air. But the Seattle Seahawks cut Noah Fant, the tight end. Hey, should the Titans bring in X player who's better than the players they have right now? Should the Titans bring in Noah Fant because he's probably better than Chig Okonkwo? That is something that also comes up over the course of training camp.
Definitely. Noah Fant's an intriguing guy. Always has been. Because why? He was a first-round pick.
Indeed,
anybody in every sport, hey,
he's first round.
He was a first-round pick. Oh. Maybe he just needs a new set of scenery.
Nah, he doesn't. Yeah, this would not be the place for his new scenery here in Nashville. It just would be. Got to go somewhere else. I do
think that at some point, T'Vondre Sweat's weight will become a story. Although it did not become a story during the season last season. It was a story leading into the season. It was not a story during the season.
I think it's going to be a story because he plays so well being such a big guy. And he's going to have people, marvel at him, his ability to move in his second year, the move that he's more than likely new moves that he's learned, him feeling more comfortable, and people are going to look at it, man, this dude at this weight, and he's still able to do that. What he showed you, what he can do last year. I mean, his weight wasn't a problem last year, so I don't know why it would be a problem, but I think it would be more so of he continues to do it at the weight he's at. So nobody's going to have a problem with it outside of that.
Jim Wyatt. I do find Jim Wyatt's mailbags interesting because if you read in there, if you read through them, you can find some interesting stuff. So in a mailbag, I don't know when this was. I'm not going to scroll up and look. But a reader asked Jim about how Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat looked in camp, although, Jeffrey Simmons didn't really participate in camp. Jim Wyatt wrote, quote, "Sweat just looked okay to me this offseason. I didn't notice a big difference in his weight when he reported back for the start of the offseason, but I think he has lost some weight since. He now has about 3 to 4 weeks to get himself in peak condition to be ready for camp." So a Tavondre Sweat is too fat storyline. You can almost guarantee that it's going to happen. Robert on a text line says, "Y'all making fun right now, but watch Ward and Xavier have a huge career together."
See, he's starting already.
I rest my case.
Hey, I hope so.
I rest my case.
Listen, I really hope so. I really hope that is indeed the case. So we'll see once camp starts. We'll see how this thing sort of shakes out.
615-737-1025. Our phone and text lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. What do you think the silliest storyline or controversy will be that arises during Titans training camp when it kicks off on Wednesday? 615-737-1025. We'll get to Teron Davenport at 1 o'clock. But before we do, I do want to touch on something that came out after Willie and I were off the air on Friday. Derek may have touched on it already, but Willie and I have it. And we'll do that next. 615-737-1025. Willie Darnick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game.
Hey, if you are stressed out right now about where your finances are going month to month, and perhaps you've got some high interest loans that you're trying to get a hold of and knock out, if you haven't considered Loan Pronto by now, you certainly haven't been listening to me because I have been pounding this message in with Loan Pronto and their outstanding rapid equity loan program. It's a great way to use your home's equity to your advantage. And you can suddenly, in a very short period of time, get approved for thousands of dollars out of your home's equity, get a better interest rate, save money each month, and then knock out that credit card bill or pay off that car loan that's got the high interest rate. What are you waiting for? Call and use your home equity. It's yours. Loan Pronto is the engine that can do it for you. Call them at 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com is the website. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. It's an A-plus rated organization by the BBB, and they have nearly 2,500 five-star Google reviews. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781 on approved credit. NMLS consumeraccess.org.
D. Mace Finken and Donick 102.5, 106.3 the game. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vinken. Willie just dropped a tray of 5 bacon cheeseburgers right in front of me. They smell divine. Where are they from, Willie?
Well, Adam is an arm's length of those cheeseburgers, so I'm wondering if by 2 o'clock all 5 will be gone. But
straight to my thighs.
All right, Squidward.
I didn't expect that.
But a good friend of mine and a good friend of the show, Big Al, dropped him by just because random act of kindness.
Thank you, Big Al.
Big Al's Deli Catering. He's done a lot of great work for our family, and I go way, way back with Al. So Al, we got the burgers. He dropped them off downstairs, and so we're gonna chow down. We are keeping those in the studio. Notice we're not gonna let them sit in the break room because they
might be gone by the time 2 hits.
So thank you, Al.
Was Emily singing back there?
Yes, yep, she was.
Wow.
I heard that. Sounds great. Sounds great, Emily. So before we get to Teron Davenport and continue the Titans conversation, this came out after Willie and I were on the air on Friday. The SEC football preseason media poll. Texas, the narrow favorite to win the SEC, ahead of Georgia, followed by Alabama and LSU. So that's the top tier, because between LSU and South Carolina, there is a difference of roughly 500 points. First off, congratulations to Vanderbilt, which received 2 votes, I guess, or 2 points as SEC preseason champion, 1 more than Tennessee. So congratulations, Vanderbilt. I mean, I don't know if it was a gag. I feel like Vanderbilt always ends up on the SEC champions list, maybe sort of as a lark. But hey, Vanderbilt, more votes to win the SEC than Tennessee. So you go, Commodores. Vanderbilt predicted to finish 13th in the SEC, ahead of Arkansas, Kentucky, and Mississippi State. If my counting is right, Tennessee is at 9th in the SEC. There aren't numbers, so I'm not going to do the math on the air. But Willie, I think, Derek, you've already had a chance to react to this. Willie, your thoughts on the preseason SEC media poll?
Like I said last week, I don't pay any attention really to those, and also the ranking, the list in the standings. It's really not significant for a program like Vanderbilt as much as it might be for a team that's trying to get into the playoffs, because the league is so deep. You can be 13th and be a pretty good team. Like, to me, what is 13th? Is 13th enough to get to a bowl game for a second straight year and have some really good wins in there? That's the question to me. And I am curious, because the head-to-head games that they have at home against Missouri, Kentucky, Auburn, like those are 3 right there. That's a huge question. Are you better than those teams? In a 16-team league, you only play half the teams. So the league standings mean nothing, really. It's only, are you good enough to get into the championship game? Are you good enough to get into the college football playoff? Beyond that, it's just, did you win the games you're supposed to win? Mm-hmm. Did you slide into a bowl game? What were the wins? How did you play? It's not, hey, we finished 11th or we finished 9th. Especially in football where there's so few games, it really doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at this, and Connor and I, Jake and I, and Connor, we talked about this last week when it came out, and because I wanted to see, how many first place votes Vandy got. And we laughed last year when they only got one first place vote. When we were trying to figure out, well, who is that one person? Right. Who was that one person?
This is a mystery person.
Exactly.
Because even when they were like 0-10,
yeah, somebody still voted. Now they have 2 first place votes in this year's. They are not what we would deem the cellar dwellers anymore. And this is why I think this year for Vandy is going to be critical for the program, because Willie, we had Michaela Blakes on last week, great interview. Outstanding young lady, basketball player, student. And I asked her the question about Diego Pavia and about the energy that the team and him in particular brings to all the programs in the universities. And she spoke on it. It was like that energy did infuse the women's basketball in every other sport outside of football. And with that being said, it's going to be Diego has to come back because now everybody's going to be eyeing on him. What is going to be the encore for Diego Pavia? That's what I want to see. I think the guy's hell of a player. He's a competitor. Will he make it to the next level? I don't know. He may not. It's not for me to say. But this guy is such a competitor. I think I'm so excited to see the encore from him. I know if he does well, the team's going to do well, but I want to see his encore because if he plays, to the level he played it even better than last year, this team will, I predict 8, possibly 9 wins, and that's including the bowl. That's including the bowl.
How does Coach Willie feel about that?
Well,
Willie don't like that. Willie doesn't like
the schedule's so tough. That would be incredible if they pulled that off. I do think that they will have more talent than they had at the beginning of last year, and more certainly, but they also will be on the radar. They're not going to sneak up on anybody. I asked the question last week. My theory is, had they not lost to Georgia State, had they beaten Georgia State, I don't know that they would have beaten Alabama, but it was like the perfect storm. I think Alabama saw that Vanderbilt had lost to Georgia State, and they were saying, I heard Vanderbilt was better. No, they just lost to Georgia State. Were they ready to play when they came here? No, I think they were ripe as a number 1 team to get beat. They had beaten Georgia. Everybody was excited, telling them how great they were. And Vanderbilt spent a week getting berated by their people saying, no, you guys are no good. You thought you arrived. You're not that good. So they were completely ready to play that game. So now it's really extrapolated to the whole season. They're not going to sneak up on anybody. And Clark Lee has to pound into Diego Pavia and on down. We can't just sit there and think we're good. We have to prove it all over again. We've got a difficult schedule. They are at Tennessee. They are at Alabama. They are at Texas. They are at what's the other road game in the league? It's a brutal road schedule. South Carolina. They're at South Carolina. They could be better and still not win as many games as they won last year. That's the razor's edge that they're on. But I love the idea that Diego Pavia is infusing his energy across the whole athletic program. I buy that, and it's great to hear that firsthand.
Teron Davenport, who will join us in about 10 minutes, tweeted this 5 minutes ago. Traylon Burks, torn ACL, is expected to be good to go after only taking part in individual period during OTAs and minicamp. Additionally, as A to Z Sports first reported, L'Jarius Sneed quad in Lloyd Cushenberry Achilles will be on PUP when the Titans start training camp. So Traylon Burks expected to be good to go
after day one.
Day one. So
hence,
that's my silly season question.
Who do you think, to go back to that topic for a moment, who do you think is more riper? I don't know which one is which. For the silly storyline, Xavier Restrepo or Traylon Burks?
I think Restrepo for sure, because he's going to have it out of the gate.
Yeah, because he's Cam Ward's, running mate back in college. So yeah, but listen, if Traylon Burks starts showing something, and it doesn't look like he's gonna run into a wall or fall on his back or do something silly and end up hurting himself, then this talk may lead into the season, especially if he's able to play all 3. Is it 2 preseason games now?
Yeah, if he gets into a preseason,
if he plays both of those
preseason
preseason games, have a few catches, some good ones, maybe even score a touchdown. Ooh, man, I'm telling you, the Traylon Burks saga will continue, but in a good way, I guess, for him.
I'm firmly in. I'll believe it when I see it, Mo, with Traylon Burks.
But in practice, where it's not for real, he can jump out at you with plays, and it does say to yourself, because he's got the physical tools. It's like a pitcher that throws 100 miles an hour. You always are going to be intrigued and ask yourself the question, if this guy ever put it together, what would it look like?
I distinctly remember last year, Derek, you and I were broadcasting live from Titans training camp. I believe it was during the Seahawks joint practices. We're on the sideline. I assume it was Will Levis, threw a ball into the corner of the end zone for Traylon Burks. He disappears because of our vantage point. So we don't see him we don't see if he makes the catch, which I don't think he did. And the next thing you know, he pops up and he's walking into the building with a trainer. And I said, oh boy, here we go again. Traylon Burks with a trainer. So as far as I'm concerned, until I can see him get through a few practices without having to talk to a trainer, I'm veering clear.
That's all mental. It is. It's all mental. Because just because you fall and it may take you a second to get up doesn't mean you need the trainers to come help you. I think there
and now coming off the ACL, this is a whole new thing.
He has to prove that if he falls, he can get up on his own and walk off. And because the minute he has no margin for error. He doesn't. And if he misses a camp because soreness of the, hamstring, or he falls and, tweaks something, he might as well just stay out.
615-737-1025. We'll take your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans. Of course, the big news of the day. Will Levis will be undergoing season-ending surgery on his right shoulder. He is out for this coming season. He will not report to training camp with the rest of his teammates tomorrow. Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi are scheduled to address reporters tomorrow, I believe at noon. We will carry that for you live. A lot of answers to the questions we have hopefully will come from that news conference. I got to get into these burgers from Willie's friend Big Al. So we're going to do that now. That's why I'm going to break a couple minutes early, so I can stuff my face before Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, joins us next to continue the conversation. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063. The Game. D. Mace Finken and Donick 1025, 1063 The Game. Broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. And we are presented by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Joined on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by ESPN, NFL Nation, Titans reporter, Teron Davenport. And Teron, before we begin, we want to congratulate you on your new contract with ESPN. Well-deserved. We're so glad you will continue to bring us outstanding insight on the local professional football team moving forward.
Hey, well, thank you very much, man. I'm excited to be back, and going to be a very exciting 3 years and more to come.
So, of course, the big news of the day, Teron, Will Levis will be undergoing season-ending shoulder surgery on the shoulder he injured early last season. What was your reaction upon learning about this? And have you learned any additional information over the past few hours?
Yeah, no, it made me kind of think back to some of the conversations that we were able to have with him after practice during minicamp. And I did recall him saying that he did have some soreness, but he just kind of like chalked that up to, hey, you know, you're back throwing again. You're going to have that. But I guess it turned out that soreness actually caused him to seek some additional medical opinions. And one of the results that he got back, it suggested doing the surgery. And he was really hoping, because I remember last year, you know, around the time when it came out that the injury was a pretty serious one, he had talked about how he wanted to avoid surgery, and he had the surgery on his left shoulder, and he said he didn't like the process. And obviously getting a knife, you know, put onto your throwing shoulder is never something you really want. So he was trying to avoid that through rest and rehab, and hope that over the off season, you know, getting some of that would allow him to be able to move forward with this season. But I mean, you have to wonder, right? I mean, I know he didn't say so, but the timing of this and not getting a trade and getting an opportunity to, you know, prove himself somewhere else, knowing the competition was just that, a quotation marks competition, you have to wonder about the timing of this and if it's something that kind of was tied into him, you know, not truly getting an opportunity to compete with Cameron Ward for the starting job.
That leads me directly into my next question, Teron, because the word we have used to describe this decision is strategic. So had Will Levis felt he could realistically compete for the starting job, based on what you know, do you think he would have opted against having this surgery?
Yeah, I do think he would have opted against it if he felt he had a true chance. I thoroughly believe that to be the case, because I think when you look at this, right, last year he wanted to play through the injury, and he attempted to play through the injury. You remember the Colts game where he tried to come back and it wasn't successful.
Teron, now, what do you think is next for Will Levis and the Titans from this standpoint? Because obviously, he's on IR. More than likely, has no chance of coming back. So, do you think that next year? Because I believe this is it for Will Levis, and not in a bad way. I think he just needs another place. And this helps facilitate that, because now he can come back and say, I'm fully healthy and ready to go. And maybe the shoulder was part of why I wasn't playing well during the season. But where do you think he's headed now? Do you think he will get a legitimate shot at being a starter in this league? Or do you think he will remain a backup? And do you think the Titans can potentially get something for him?
Yeah, I think the Titans will get something for him. It's unfortunate for him because if everything was okay and he didn't, in fact, need the surgery, or he'll be able to play, this offseason or the preseason was a real opportunity for him to kind of show and prove. And I think you look at both situations, right? You look at Atlanta and you look at Tampa. Obviously, he wouldn't get a starting opportunity there, but if I'm Tampa, I definitely would think about trading for him, you know, especially after seeing him in joint practices. If he did well there and did well during the preseason game, I think that would have been an opportunity. But I mean, look, this is a decision he made, and so now he's going to have to at least have a clean bill of health right after the surgery and work his way back and just see what he could do. Maybe Jacksonville, right, because of familiarity with Liam Cohen. But do the Titans make a in-division trade? Or I think you look at the Rams, right, with the Matthew Stafford. He's not getting any younger, and their backup situation is not the most ideal.
Now there's two guys starting on PUP. Most importantly, I think because of what has happened throughout this whole year or last year, it's L'Jarius Sneed. Now, TD, there seem to be mixed messages, at least from where I sit, because on one hand, it was asked of L'Jarius Sneed at his camp in Louisiana, "Hey, how are you feeling?" And he says, "I feel great. I haven't felt better." But then on the other hand, the Titans are putting him on PUP, and I understand the PUP, but they're saying, well, he's set to play basically opening game of the season, but we don't know when he's going to practice. What is going on with this? Because to me, those are two mixed messages, and I'm not faulting L'Jarius Sneed for it. I'm just saying L'Jarius Sneed says one thing, but Titans, you're telling us something else.
And that's the thing. There's a clear and obvious disconnect somewhere. And, naturally as a player, if you feel like you're close or you're there, you're going to say that. So I understand him saying that, but I think this decision, I think it's more of a team-based decision. Now, this is not going off any reporting. This is just me saying what I believe to be the case. And I think they're just bringing him along slowly. And you got to remember, even when healthy, right, there was a degree of load management for him anyway in trying to keep those knees righteous. And I think that's something to consider also.
Teron Davenport is with us. And Teron, along those lines, because of the position he plays and because of the history, I feel like I'm not quite as concerned about precisely when Sneed starts to practice as I am with Cushenberry, Lloyd Cushenberry. And so I wanted to get your gauge on how long that would be, because with the rookie quarterback and the shuffling of the offensive line, we know reps are important in practice for a center. So what are you looking at there?
Yeah, reps are very important in practice, especially for that center quarterback exchange. The good thing is Cushenberry, his locker is right next to Cam Ward's. They have already spent extensive time watching film together. And I tell you, even without Cushenberry, if you go back to practice during OTAs and minicamp, there were a couple of times where Cam Ward, like, he recognized the pressure. He talked to the O-line. They changed the package, the protection package, and he changed the route, and they got good results. So that's just something for them to build on. But there's nothing like being out there together and sweating and going through that process of training camp together. That's a bond that's created. So hopefully for their sake, Cushenberry can get out there soon. I do know that he spent extensive time on that third field working out and getting some things in order. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's back, maybe after a week of camp, and he remains optimistic about being there for the season opener. And we know that's against his former team, the Denver Broncos.
We've got 7 weeks, so it does seem like you've got some time to still have some ample practice time and reps. So do you think we'll get a clearer picture this week of what their goal is? Or do you think, because what PUP does is if you want to go this way, you can just say he's on PUP. We'll discuss that player when he comes off of the PUP. But do you think we might learn what the goal is of how soon into the 7 weeks we might see either one on the field?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. That's for sure a question that I'll be asking tomorrow, right? What's going on? We thought that Sneed was good to go, and apparently not. So yeah, I'll be asking that. Absolutely.
So Teron, back to Levis for a moment. And hearing you're I'm sure going back through all of the chapters of this, and what we're trying to get a sense of is how much better or worse is the shoulder today, on the day that he decides to have the season-ending surgery, than it was during the season last year. Because that's I think the most intriguing part of this is the what if. I wonder if he's looking back and saying, you know what, I should have shut it down. either during the season last year or at the very latest at the end of the season last year. So he would have been that much further ahead in the rehab.
Yeah, I think it is definitely better than it was at the time. It's an AC joint. And, anytime with those impact type of injuries, the best thing is rest, right? So he went through a period of rest, during the off season before he went and got with Jordan Palmer, and then he worked through the rehab process. And I mean, he said he felt good, but again, like he admitted to some soreness. So I think the timing is definitely something to raise an eyebrow at. But I think it's really just from here where he's like, look, man, I'm not about to risk re-injuring this shoulder, getting mop-up duty or running scout team for them all year. I'd rather get the surgery done and be completely clear and back and ready to go with another opportunity wherever that should be.
It was so unclear what the Titans' goal was for Levis, whether they really wanted him to be the backup or whether this was okay in a scenario for them. They're paying for his rehab. They're going to keep him on the roster, even if he doesn't count against the roster. So they must think enough of him to do that, but they sort of table everything. So I'm wondering if you're Levis in a worst case scenario, I could have seen a scenario where he got cut for that. So do you think that played a part in the decision? Did we lose Teron?
Did we lose him? We may.
Did you get that, Teron?
We'll get back in touch with Teron Davenport. We lost Teron. That's okay.
That's a bummer.
We'll get
we discussed this in the first hour of the show, but I do wonder if Will Levis looked at it and say, my shoulder's not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's bothering me, and I need to be at 100%. But in a worst case, if I'm hedging my bets, best case, okay, I win the backup job. Worst case, I get cut, and I don't have a job. But this ensures that he is getting paid this season, and hopefully is on his way to being a better quarterback next season. That's what the hope is when you get your shoulder fixed.
Yeah. But like you said, he has to make sure that this off season, do we have TD back?
Yeah, we do. Let's go back to Teron Davenport on our phone line. Sorry, we dropped you there, Teron. Willie, you continue with your
TD,
question.
I don't know if you got my question, but I was laying out if you're Will Levis and you're looking best case, worst case, the worst case would be his shoulder's bothering him and he doesn't play well and he becomes a casualty of the roster with Brandon Allen and everything they've got. So do you think that played into his decision of kind of hedging his bets and saying, I'm going to ensure I have a paycheck and I'm hopefully making myself a better quarterback for next year?
Absolutely. That's basically what I just said, right? You're going to, instead of toiling in backup duty, you're going to go ahead and rehab, get the surgery and rehab. And at this time next year, hopefully for his sake, he's in an opportunity that's more conducive to him being a starter. What happens if Aaron Rodgers retires and Pittsburgh grabs him, right? There's different opportunities throughout the league.
I guess what I was asking you is, did you think, based on what you saw, that he was competing just for a roster spot? Was there a scenario he could have gotten cut with the presence of Allen?
Oh, no, I don't think he would have gotten cut. There's no way. I mean, he's a guy that has starting experience in this league, a relatively inexpensive contract. It would have been foolish to me to cut him, and I think he showed that he was going to be a good soldier and right, support Cameron Ward. And just the thing he said that I love the most is he said, look, I'm just going to keep my head down, continue working, and do my best to be ready to play quarterback when I'm asked to. And I think that's all you could ask for someone in that situation.
So in that scenario, that to me would have been best case scenario for him. Allen would be cut?
When I submitted my 53-man, I had Allen cut, and I figured that they would bring him back on the practice squad.
So now he becomes more of a focus for everybody because you do have to wonder if you can, it's a challenge for any quarterback to play 17 straight games, especially a rookie. So give me your thoughts on what we're going to see from Brandon Allen. I do not have a mental picture of him like I do for some other backups where you've at least seen him play in some other scenarios. So what are they getting?
Listen, he's a serviceable player. Like, it's not like we're looking at a guy that's going to come in and do what Nick Foles did for the Eagles back in 2017. Like, don't even expect that. So pretty much this is what it comes down to, right? If they're able to make it through the season with Cam Ward taking most, if not all of the snaps, hey, that's great. If not, and you have, a guy like Brandon Allen come in, especially for extensive time, it just comes down to, okay, how much patience is the front office going to have with Brian Callahan? Because if you have Brandon Allen playing, your chances of winning go down. Let's just keep it 100, right? And so that being said, how much patience are they going to have, and how much are they going to be invested in stability for Cameron Ward? And that's why I asked so many times, before the draft and after the draft, about the importance of stability, because that's what Mike Borgonzi saw in Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes. That's what Chad Brinker saw in Green Bay, with Aaron Rodgers and then Jordan Love. But then you look at what, Brian Callahan saw with Joe Burrow and hanging on through the rocky times. I mean, they ended up with a top 5 pick, right? The number 5 overall pick. So if they could have patience and the Titans could get, a top pick, there's some good receivers coming out. I mean, you look at, like Antonio Williams from Clemson. You got Jacoby Lane from USC. I mean, there's a lot of guys. Arizona State, Jordan Tyson. I mean, there's some guys that could come in and, hey, possibly be not that Jamar Chase, but be that other young receiver that they could grow with their quarterback.
Teron Davenport with us. 2 more quick ones for you, TD. As you mentioned, Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi will address reporters tomorrow at the start of camp. There will be a lot of questions about Will Levis. As you said yourself, there'll be questions about L'Jarius Sneed. What else do you want to know from Brinker and Borgonzi tomorrow?
That's the bulk of it, but I would also like to know, about the approach to the season. Like, how patient are you guys going to be with Ward, and at what point, how many growing pains are you going to go through? At what point, are you going to look at it and say, hey, well, I guess it's kind of, they've already said it with Levis going on IR with the surgery. I was going to say, at what point do you just say, okay, this is Cam Ward and there's no turning back? But they pretty much did that already.
Last one for you, Teron. You've been at this a long time. You've covered countless training camps. As you know, every camp, there is a silly storyline or controversy that arises that you will look back on and say, I can't believe we wasted so much oxygen talking about this silly storyline or controversy. So I want you to predict what you think that silly storyline or controversy will be at Titans training camp over the next month.
Yeah, I think it's going to be something revolving around the first Cam Ward interception. It's going to be either the overreaction to it or to that, or to the first touchdown. And I always, and this is something I tell my buddy, my good friend Jarrett Stillman, I tell him all the time, it's never as good as you think it is, and it's never as bad as you think it is.
Do you think you're making any headway, TD, with that? Because I feel the same way as you do. I don't think we're getting anywhere.
Yeah. No, it's as good as I might as well tell these pair of Jordan 3s I got on now. I might as well tell them the same thing. I have the
retention of them is about the same. Yeah.
Yep.
Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, joining us as he does every week. Teron, great stuff as always. Can't wait to actually have practice to talk about. Once again, congratulations on the new contract with ESPN. We're so happy for you and glad that you will be continuing to provide your outstanding insight for us here in Nashville.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, fellas. Take it easy.
But he is dead on right about the overreaction, because every quarterback, I'll never forget when Ryan Tannehill, who was the backup to Marcus Mariota, had a practice against the Patriots where I think he went for like 2 for 17 or something. And everybody was talking about this. And he wasn't even supposed to be the starter. And of course, as we know, it turned out pretty well for Ryan Tannehill. But the hype of every rep for the first overall pick in his first year. We're going to hypersensitive overanalyze everything. It's like more than Will Levis and more than Marcus Mariota. Don't you think? For where they are, like everything is riding on this guy. So
Oh, of course.
we have to try to do what Tehran is saying.
Yeah.
We know Jared won't.
Mhm.
Can we? Like, we feel like we're more rational. We're all laughing. Yeah, Jared will never do that.
No.
Will we do it?
I don't think we will.
Like, we got to stop ourselves.
Yeah.
I like to
sometimes.
think that I'm quite level-headed.
Exactly. I like to think that, I know the ebb and flows of the league. And like you said, sometimes, and majority of the times, it's not as good or as bad as what you think. But there are some times when it is extremely bad or extremely good. So
615-737-1025. We will get to your reaction next. We will revisit the story of the day. Will Levis out for the season, surgery on his right shoulder. We will touch on that and more and take your reaction. Coming up next at 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063, The Game. D. Mace, Finn, Donick, 1025, 1063, The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan. Let's go to our phone line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com, and welcome in Clay. Clay, do Chase and Big Joe know that you're calling a different show?
Nope.
They weren't on today, so maybe they don't know, but I just want to know if they know.
Same channel. It's more against the rules, I guess, when you go down or up.
I suppose.
I don't call in, much to this show, but I always enjoy call in. And last time I got accused of calling just to talk to Woody. Just to talk to Willie, since I'm a Vanderbilt fan. Willie is not there today, correct?
He's right
No,
here.
he's here.
Okay, there you are, Willie.
Now you can change your
you
questions
may,
and direct them toward Willie. No, I'm just messing with you. I'm messing with you. Go ahead.
You may, I tell you this all the time, and I met you when y'all did a remote down at I believe it's called Jackson's on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
When Caroline was on the show.
Yes.
Y'all did. Do you remember that, Willie?
Sure.
That means no.
That's when I met D. Mace. And Derek, I've told you this before, but I went to Steve's funeral, and I can only imagine what that was like for you, because he was a brother to you. He's a teammate. I was actually at the AFC Championship game in Jacksonville. I remember the punt return you had, and you and Keith Bullock were my guys back in the day.
Thank you.
I wore your jersey to one game, Keith to the other one. And I know Keith is still in the area. And Willie, you know this. I think it's really cool that a lot of Titans still live here in Nashville, just like there's a lot of former Vanderbilt basketball players that still live here in Nashville. I just think that's really cool, being, a proud Nashvilleian since I was born here. I had a couple questions for you, Derek. On the Will Levis thing, if he's out for the year, and I just heard that in the car, maybe 10 minutes ago when I was driving home listening to the show. So my question is, has Will Levis played his last down for the Tennessee Titans?
Thank you for the call, Clay.
Thank you, Clay, and thank you for your kind words as well. I think it is. I think for Will Levis, it needs to be, because if Cam Ward does what I think the organization expects him to do, you will never be underneath center here. And that's good at least for the organization, because now they've gotten their quarterback. But that doesn't mean that Will Levis can't play anywhere else. So unfortunately, I think, the last time you saw Will Levis underneath center, that is the last time I think you're going to see him play for the Tennessee Titans. I could be wrong, but I think all this is setting up for Will Levis to either be traded next year somehow, some way. Release. Release is probably the last resort, so to speak. But yeah, I expect him not to be on the roster next year.
Go ahead, Willie.
Oh, I just still feel like I'm not ready to say this is it, because of how difficult it is. And we might find out this year about Brandon Allen and whoever they end up playing behind Cam Ward, if Ward has to miss some games. And the probability is he's going to miss some games. It's hard to play 17 straight, especially as a rookie. I'd like to, this is one of your projects, Adam. How many rookie quarterbacks have started every game in their rookie season? I would bet you it is less than 60%, if not less than 50%. And I think we could even boil it down to if you're the opening day starter. Not guys like Dan Marino, who came in and went wild after 3 or 4 games and then became the starter after that.
Quickly, both Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels started all 17 games last season.
Okay. I would still say if we put the whole list together, it's not likely.
I've got a homework assignment.
With Will Levis, he's going to be a cheap option as a backup next year. That will be their prerogative. If he's healthy, he would be a cheap option as the backup next year.
He's not going to, unfortunately, Willie, he's going to demand a trade.
Demand a trade?
Yes, for this reason.
What do you think? You're on the phone and I
It's
say
not-
I demand a trade. You're
Listen,
like, what?
Listen,
You can't
this is-
demand anything. We're not in a position to do anything.
He's
We
going
just
to
rehabbed your shoulder.
He's going to. They didn't rehab his shoulder. He decided to go get the surgery.
Who's
and
paying for it?
His insurance. The NFL is paying for it.
Yeah,
the
the
NFL is
Titans
paying
are.
for it. So listen,
He's getting paid by the Titans.
He's going to demand a trade, not in public, but he's going to be behind the closed doors demanding a trade. Why? Because he knows his contract is coming up.
Yeah, he has no leverage.
No, what I'm saying is that he's going to wanna. He's never going to play. He is never.
How do we
going
know
to
that?
Play. Listen. If Cam Ward comes out
He
and
could get
play,
hurt,
barring injury,
injury is a very real thing.
But how many times in this league is a starting quarterback really going to get injured? Because they protect them so well that they're not, unless it's some fluke injury, they're not going to. They protect these guys to every end. So him getting more quarterbacks are staying healthy now, I believe, than ever. So with that being said, Will Levis knows that he will not be, unless there's a colossal fail of Cam Ward, he will not see underneath center again. If I am a guy that wants to start in this league, I am asking for a trade. I don't want to be on the squad next year. I want to be somewhere else. The Titans probably would hold on to him if worse came to worse.
And so that comes down to what is his value? Like, are people calling and saying, yes,
that's
I'll
why
trade
he's doing the
something.
surgery now. That's why he's doing it now.
Well, that's going to be the question is, does he have value for trade? Because then I can see the Titans going, at least we're getting something for him. But if there's no trade value, as that's the case right now, then I would not meet his demand of being traded. It's like, Will, I'd like to trade you. Nobody wants you. That's what I'd go back to.
I'll try to meet his demand.
I'd love to trade you. Nobody wants you. Prove to me you can play. Earn the backup job.
How is he going
That's what I would say.
How is he going to prove to you that he can play when, even if he earns the backup role,
that's the backup. That's the job. That is what we want you to be, the backup.
He will never see the day of light. Okay?
You're saying the Cam Ward will never get injured.
What I'm saying is this. Cam Ward, he will never see underneath center for the Tennessee Titans
as the starter
again. But
you need a backup.
Somebody else going to be backup. And it's not, I don't think so much it's about, it's not necessarily that I don't believe Will Levis can come back fully healthy and truly earn that backup role. What I'm saying, Will Levis wants to be a starter. He wants to be a starter. He's not going to get a chance to show anything because you only got 2 preseason games. And who you think playing those preseason games?
Do you think somebody will bring him in as a starter coming off of shoulder surgery?
No, just like, because listen, he's not Drew Brees. I understand that. So people don't think I'm comparing him to Drew Brees, but I am from an injury standpoint. Drew Brees had the same thing happen because Drew Brees put a lot on film. Then New Orleans made the trade for him. I'm not saying that he's Drew Brees. What he wants is, once I rehab this shoulder, once I show y'all in camp that I'm ready to go, trade me because I want to be a starter. So if I show you enough in camp that I'm ready to go, because only thing teams want to know is, can he throw the football? That's all they want to know. They don't want to know if he can beat out the second guy that's there already. Can you throw the football, Will Levis, now that you have shoulder surgery? Yes, I can. Well, let me see you do it, consistently for about a month or 2. Well, he can throw for about, now let's make a trade for him. But until then, I'm not, like you said, I'm not going to give anything for him. I got to prove he can get back on the field first.
One texter, Clay said that he doesn't think that Will Levis is ever going to take a snap, or asked us if we think that Will Levis will ever take a snap for the Titans again. One texter says, I still believe that we will never see Levis in a regular season NFL game again.
Just look at some of the quarterbacks.
Yes.
Just look at some. Yes. I will take
preseason
2 minutes
next year. Yes, you will see him in a game, but that's just, we're setting up so we can trade you.
So, do you agree with this texter that we will never see Levis in a regular season NFL game again? Not for the Titans, and for any team.
For any team. Okay, I don't agree with that.
Do we need to talk about some of the players that played in NFL games last year? Marcus Mariota, still playing games in the NFL. Josh Dobbs, still playing games in the NFL. Tim Boyle played games in the NFL last year. He's on the Titans now. Tanner McKee, Brandon Allen, Skylar Thompson,
Tommy DeVito,
Bailey Zappi, Tyrod Taylor still playing in the NFL. Carson Wentz,
Malik Willis.
Hendon Hooker, Nick Mullins, AJ Cole III. Ever heard of that guy?
Uh-huh.
No.
Okay.
Mike White. So this is the
I
guys
get,
stay
I
in the
get
league.
what you're saying.
He's going
Willis.
to Will Levis is going to be in the league.
Oh, of course he's going to be in the league.
But nobody's going to trade him to be their starter. He's got to get real with that. He needs to become a better option than these guys that I'm mentioning.
Willie, he's not going to get a chance to become a better option for the Titans. Why? Because he's going to miss a whole
Why not?
year.
They need a backup
I'm
next year.
I'm telling you.
Unless Brandon Allen becomes
I'm
really
about
good.
to explain to you. They are not. He's not going to be the backup next year for this reason. One, because I think if Brandon Allen doesn't play at all this season and he shows a little bit during preseason, Brandon Allen would be the backup quarterback this year and next year. We got him signed for, I think they got him signed for a 2-year deal, I believe, but he will be the backup this year and next year. Will Levis ain't going to be the backup. As long as Brandon Allen shows a little bit of something and he never plays during the season, then why would I keep Will Levis? I don't need to.
615-737-1025. We will continue to take your reaction on Will Levis being out for the season. We're going to wrap up the show next, first by providing an important update from our show on Friday. And there is also an update from the fallout of the NFLPA leadership scandal, we'll call it that we just have to discuss. And we will do that coming up next. 615-737-1025. Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan, 1025-1063 The Game. D. Mace, Vingan, and Donick, 1025, 1063. The Game, Willie Donick, Derek Mason, Adam Vingan here with you. Stoneman and Company coming up next. Jared, back from vacation again. I don't anticipate a vacation in Jared's future now that football season is here.
It's ramping up for him now.
Are we sure?
It's ramping up for him now.
I can't be sure, but we will find out. But
I
Jared
can be sure.
Yes.
I'll be sure.
Jared will be back in just a matter of moments. But first, we want to provide an update on a story that a lot of you apparently took interest in on Friday. Willie solicited advice about a mouse problem in his home. We received a ton of texts, including one from a professional in the pest control space. They even said, Willie, if you have questions, call me over the weekend. That same person texted in wanting to know, did you catch the mouse, Willie Donick?
We caught a mouse.
So I
Not
took that
the mouse?
I took that to the bank because
You
my
did.
take it to the
You
bank
were
was
correct.
Willie's going to catch the mouse.
And it's quite striking when you open the drawer and there he is.
Did you take the peanut butter advice?
Yes, we
Okay.
did. So the peanut butter tip was good. So I don't feel like we have completely closed the door on this issue, but
Mice problem.
But you have sent a message to
we
the
sent
other
a
mice.
message to the mice. And look, I got no problem with the mice. I want them to live their life, just not in our house. You can hang out outside the house.
We can be buddies outside.
Hang outside the house.
You can lauder all outside the house all you want
I
to.
mean, even if you occasionally come into the basement, okay, that just don't do it. Don't let us see you.
Exactly.
The mice.
Hide out.
Yeah. And to their credit, the mice, they've been pushing the envelope. We've never seen one.
Mhm.
I had never seen one in the house.
You just saw.
That's a new level. We see one in the house.
Oh
Now
yeah,
we
that
got a
messes
problem.
you all up. That messes.
We
you
only
all up.
had evidence that they had gotten to a certain place in our house. And so we had to take action.
But you nipped it in the bud.
Well, we got
Hopefully,
one. We
yeah.
got one. So how many more are there? There's probably some more.
Probably.
some more.
Willie, you
And that's
have,
where I might need to consult the professional.
Willie, you have what? Birds chasing you in your area?
Deer. There's deer.
You
There-
have
the deer-
mice.
I still, for all the East Siders, there's a deer and a baby deer
Mhm.
hanging out in the East Nashville. They just pictures pop up around town, around the neighborhood. So they're hanging out. I don't know what's going on. Who's feeding them? Where are they?
Adam.
Are we doing anything?
These
He
deer.
lives
Adam,
on
have you
your
seen him
house.
yet?
I have not.
Just one.
Any other sightings
One-
on Ed the zebra? Has Ed the zebra been
Got back
contained,
out,
or has he escaped once again? We haven't heard anything about Ed the zebra.
No.
But the texters wanted an update on the mouse. You have caught the mouse. You have sent a message to all the other mice
Yes.
that the Donick house is not friendly.
I
toward
offer
mice.
a
We don't play
ceasefire.
around.
Like I just peace. Just stay in your area. We're cool. We're cool. I don't want to have to take any more action. Nobody wants to. do
Willie,
this.
I think the animal world is coming at you. When you were going out, when
heard
you
about the
almost hit,
turkey.
they heard about the turkey, and then the deer.
Ooh, I never thought about that.
Yeah, see, now the mice.
You
Oh,
clip
man.
a turkey. We're coming in on your territory.
I was just an innocent bystander in all of this. I wasn't the one driving. I
That's
was
why
just,
they're not coming to your house.
I was just the one screaming.
But
Nate
I-
on our
I
text,
keep it's emphasized. The turkey was okay. He was clipped.
as far as we know.
As far as we know.
exactly.
Nate
Maybe
on our
slightly
He's a little
injured.
Nate on our text line said we had mice/rats at a duplex we
Ooh.
rented. The only reason I knew is because I had chocolate out and it all disappeared. Then we started seeing torn wrappers around the place. It was bad.
Oh,
We haven't seen that level, but I knock on wood.
Before we leave today, I just have to get to this. So the fallout from the NFLPA leadership, I called it a scandal. Lloyd Howell Jr. resigned as the executive director, correct, of the NFLPA. I just want to read to you this story written by Don Van Natta Jr. and Kalen Kaler in ESPN as a follow-up to the story of Lloyd Howell resigning. Quote, former NFL Players Association leader Lloyd Howell Jr. resigned after an outside investigator hired by the union received documents this week showing Howell charged the union for 2 visits to strip clubs, including a $738.82 car service that took him from the airport to one of the clubs. The documents are union-approved expense reports and receipts, which ESPN began asking questions about hours before Hal abruptly resigned late Thursday night. I just have to say, you almost have to admire the fortitude,
The gumption
of a certain body part to charge visits to a strip club to your company.
and write down on the expense report. There's an expense. What does the expense report say?
One receipt obtained by ESPN shows Hal was picked up in a sedan by a car service at Fort Lauderdale International Airport on November 2nd, 2023 at 10:26 p.m. The car's first stop was at a nearby Miami Gardens address. The receipt shows only one other stop nearly 8 hours later at 6 a.m. when the car dropped off Howell at his luxury condominium in Sunny Isles Beach. A union finance worker noticed the car service's exorbitant cost. The employee searched online for the Miami Gardens address, discovering it was Tootsie's Cabaret. The 76,000 square foot venue bills itself as the world's largest strip club. Quote, full nude, #1 rated.
But this is the best part, though. I guess on the expense report, he had to write down, tell me what is the reason for this expense. And he said,
player engagement event to support and grow our union.
Support and grow our union.
Something.
Okay.
To be fair.
All right.
To be fair.
No.
Emphasis
Stop.
on
Something was growing. Something was growing. Player engagement event to support and grow our union.
He has
player
to be,
engagement.
listen,
Okay.
They.
All right.
This is
very supportive.
This is something that this shows that he didn't care about the NFLPA and the funds or the individuals, because you went out, they're paying you $3 million a year. You couldn't use your own money to go to an establishment. What probably happened was, if he's got a significant other, he probably didn't want it on a credit card bill. So again, because I can't tell you where to go and what, that's your business. Right. You're an adult, but don't use the funds from the NFLPA. I wouldn't hire you to do anything else. As far as run a company, I wouldn't hire you to run a company anymore, because you've shown you are irresponsible when it comes to the finances of the business. And the NFL, I think the PA, they need to be pressed on this too, because a couple, no more than 10 days to 2 weeks ago, they were saying, there was almost
vote of confidence.
Vote of confidence backing them. And then all of a sudden now it's crickets almost, yes. They're just moving on.
In fact, they have now gone after and forced the resignation of the guy who hired Power.
JC Treader.
Right, because it does beg the question. You didn't see any of this, all of these red flags that were right there, that it took not very long. Once they started digging, they found a lot of huge red flags. And now you wonder who's next, or where. Will it be a full-on shakeup? How will they just start over? Who will be the leadership of the NFLPA going forward? Because now you're basically starting from scratch, right?
Eric, so to speak, yeah.
Like who's running it now?
Don't know. I don't even know who's the intern.
Yeah, who's the intern?
Until they can find somebody, because this is going to be a quick turnaround now, or maybe they just go with the interim for the year and then do their vetting, and I'm sure that's what's going to happen. Put somebody in for the time being, and I would nominate Dominique Foxworth, because he's always been a part of the NFL PA, and he knows, extremely smart, knows the NFL, knows the players, played in the league a long time, and now he does television for ESPN.
Right,
so he's another
to me
guy.
Is an interesting angle, because utilization of the media was a big issue in this sweeping under the rug of the collusion evidence that was right there for everybody to see. And if you had gotten the media behind it, which in past history, that's a tool for you to use, expose and tell everybody, look what they did. They are conspiring to keep us, the players, from getting what we think we can get, moving to the next level.
But now, you know what? Now this basically puts a blanket over the whole collusion thing. Because now you got this. A guy
Right,
that
and
helped
this is stolen the
collude
show.
is
Yeah.
stealing the money too.
And the owners are laughing, going, "Ha,
Mhm, exactly.
the guy taking the fall is the other guy, not
Yep.
us." Where that really, the focus should be that the owners colluded to keep the next level of guaranteed contracts from happening from the players, which would have, in theory, helped all of the players take a step forward in more benefits for their group, for their union.
But isn't it convenient that okay, the NFL is pressed about the collusion that happened because they found out, but they said they wasn't
Right.
guilty of it, even though they said they did it. But anyway, so that comes out, and then all of a sudden, mysteriously, this guy, now what he's spending comes up. You didn't know that he spent this back then? You had to have known. So
He submitted it.
Exactly. He submitted it. You didn't realize that, wow, man, you spent 6 hours. We racked up 6 hours worth of charges. Where were you at? Let me see, where did you go?
And you left the car there.
Exactly. Where did you go?
And that's on our dime?
So I think they knew it.
They
And
must
this
have.
is their way of getting him out. And now we can get their attention away from the NFL and the owners. So there you go.
Let's end the show on a couple of texts. From Matt. Once had mice get into and eat half an ounce of pot. All the droppings were green.
Ooh.
Okay.
Wow. I'm surprised you didn't see those mice just running out everywhere.
And then Eric in Buffalo.
Mhm.
Grow the union, not grow the unit. And that'll do it for us today on D Mace, Vingan, and Donick. We will be back, of course, tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Mike Borgonzi, Chad Brinker, a.k.a. the Gonzi Scheme. Rexrow doesn't like that because it doesn't have Brinker in it some way. I think the Gonzi Scheme is too good to mess up.
Yeah.
So the Gonzi Scheme, featuring Chad Brinker, will address reporters at noon tomorrow. We will carry that for you live. Stillman and Company coming up next.
Be love on your people. Have a safe, blessed, and wonderful Monday.